welcome to We the People. With Delhi's air quality improving slightly over the weekend, the centre's air quality panel on Sunday, just a few hours ago, lifted curbs imposed under the final stage of the Air Pollution Action Plan just 3 days after it came into force. Just 3 days after the centre's air quality panel imposed these curbs in Delhi and the NCR, they've been lifted. On Thursday, in view of the worsening air quality in Delhi and in the NCR, after the AQI levels hit the severe plus category, the Commission for Air Quality Management, or the CAQM, decided to implement measures under Stage 4 of the Graded Response Action Plan, or what is known as GRAP. Now, a set of anti-pollution measures followed in the national capital and its vicinity. That is what GRAP is, according to the severity of the situation. So, around the same time, a decision was taken to close schools for primary school students. That decision, remember, has not been reversed, but the anti-pollution curbs have been reversed. Of course, the pollution curbs is a central decision. The schools closure is a state decision. But we're asking you tonight, are our priorities what? Who will fight for the rights of our young to an education? Joining us on We the People, we have Praneeth Mungali, an educationist, he is the trustee of the Sanskriti group of schools. We'll have Sudha Acharya, principal of ITL Public School, also the chairperson of the National Progressive Schools Conferences, and Dr. Vivek Nangia, Principal Director and Head of Pulmonology at Max Hospital in Saket, Akshay Marathi, spokesperson of the AAP, and Dr. Archana Dhawan Bajaj. She's a BJP supporter and a doctor, practicing doctor. But first I want to bring in Eden Menon, who's a mother with her son Adhiraj Menon, who's in grade 7. He's a 7th standard student. And we have Kariba Kohli, a mother of a nursery student and a class 2 student, both joining us. So I want to just get your reactions first as parents to schools being closed for younger kids, and at the same time curbs are being lifted. So right now it's Sunday evening, these kids are preparing to go to school and they're told there's no school tomorrow. But at the same time you have, these news reports saying that the air quality is marginally improved, so curbs are being removed.
Yes, should I speak right
now,
Sarah?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the decision of closing down the primary schools is a little confusing for me. I am not a scientist to understand the implications which is going to happen with somebody who's in class 5 and someone who's in class 6. So my son is in standard 7th, and obviously, so this decision, I'm not able to understand whether to be happy or sad, because after 2 years, schools have just started, their annual day, their sports day physically, and suddenly this knee-jerk, kind of a reaction. Whereas on one hand, we are being told that we should not venture out in the morning because the smog is at its maximum. And the school buses come at 6:15. So on the other hand, the children have to go to school. So this decision, either you close it for the entire class or let everybody decide. Because as a parent right now, in this kind of atmosphere where Delhi is a gas chamber, I will decide for myself whether I have to send my child to school or not. Honestly, I will not wait for any government decision or school authorities to take a decision if it's safe for children to, inhale this kind of poisonous gases.
So you're saying it should be blanket for all. Why would your child in class 7 be less susceptible than, let's say, a child in class 6? Is basically what you're saying. That's your concern. All right. So the point here is this is a familiar story. There's no solution to pollution, but the first answer seems to be shut down schools. Eden Menon, your reaction?
Yes, Sarah, the same thing as I'm saying. This is not the solution, and this is an annual event. It's happening every year. So, the schools right now, I don't know, have to probably schedule their plans accordingly for exams, for annual events, for sports day, because this is happening every year. And if we are expecting the government to take certain steps, which I'm sure I'm not happy with the way it has come out. So, the schools, shutting down schools may be a solution for some people who can afford, air purifier and all. What about the underprivileged kids?
Let's get in Kariba Kohli, what are your thoughts on this?
See, I have a very severely affected 4-year-old child who has been in the ICU at the age of 14 months which was obviously it was one of the worst phases of our lives, and he continues to use a puff because his breathing and his respiratory issues continue. He uses a puff which has what you call a certain amount of steroid morning and evening.
Yeah.
So obviously, I as a mother take that decision. See, our schools have not been shut in Gurgaon, so I do not know why the governments are not working together on this. Why the Haryana government is not making a decision the same way as the Delhi government is making a decision, because my children's school is open tomorrow, which I clearly do not want to send them.
So you've hit the nail on the head. The problem here is that no government seems to be working together with each other, which is why, I mean, you're on a roller coaster ride, depending on which state you are, depending on which class you are. You never know. It's not like, it's as if we all have different immunity systems too, depending on our age, and which I'm sure younger kids do. We'll get Dr. Vivek Nangia to come in over here. But Dr. Nangia, on Sunday, the air pollution levels improved slightly. I'm talking about today. That was due to favorable wind speeds and a drop in the contribution of stubble burning. However, it is still at the lower end of the very poor category. So we've gone from 450 to 350. Does this warranty easing up curbs?
See, basically what we need to understand is that if the AQI level is above 300, it's still quite toxic to all of us, especially the vulnerable group, which includes children who are less than 5 years, the elders above 65 years, and those who have an underlying disease, especially a lung disease like an asthma, COPD, or even those with the heart disease and strokes. There would still be the vulnerable group, would still be prone to developing problems because of the air pollution. So 300 is a little early. I mean, 300 is the cutoff that you need to consider when you're deciding your outdoor activities.
Yeah.
Nobody should be moving out even at 300 AQI levels and above. They should be restricting their outdoor movements completely. And if they have to, under dire circumstances, be wearing a mask, which has to be an N95 mask and nothing less than that when you're moving out.
But as a doctor, did we jump the gun? Has the government jumped the gun? Should we have perhaps, waited a little longer, given us a breather before to put ease up these curves? Because at 4 o'clock on Sunday, the 24-hour average air quality index stood at 339. You're saying 300 is the limit. It had dropped from 381 on Saturday. It was 447 on Friday. According to the Central Pollution Control Board, it was 450 on Thursday, just a notch short of that severe plus category. Should these curbs have been kept in place a little while longer? Just 3 days, and then, what are our priorities here?
Right. So that's a very good question, Sarah, that you've asked me. Basically, on one hand, we have the impact on health because of air pollution, and on the other, we have the impact of the socio-economic status,
of course,
or the socio-economic implications because of the curbs and lockdowns. So I guess that's something that the government will have to decide on their own.
Thank you, Dr. Nangia, for at least attempting to answer that question. I'm sure you feel like probably a little unfair of me to ask you that. But let me ask, schools shut down straight away. That seems to be the first response of our government, as if they're protecting our kids, but actually not really doing anything to resolve the problem. Praneeth Mungali, your reaction as an educationist.
So I think, Sarah, as a society, it's unfortunate that we are presented with a Faustian bargain of having to choose between healthcare and education, which is really not a choice that should ever have to be made. But for any public policy, there are inevitably first, second, and third order consequences. The first order consequences being the impact of policies in the short term, where the situation that we are currently confronted with, it seems inevitable that for the safety of the children, they have to be kept apart. But the more important question which confronts us is that without any long-term solutions for this, we cannot condone as citizens of the country that we land up in this situation year on year.
Yeah.
And it is something which is directly connected to education, because the lowest common denominator for a lot of the social problems we face today is the lack of education, where it's the current generation of children where we need to be teaching them about sustainability, not just about the conventional modes of EVS, etc., which children have learned. So at least when they're in a position to make a change, they can be change agents, because the kind of legacy that inevitably we are going to leave them, and I say we, it's really at a global scale and not at a state scale or at a national scale, they at least need to be empowered and taught from the get-go.
And it's an entire generation that we're losing. But as you point out, we have to take these tough decisions between health, between education, between the economy. So that's exactly what we're asking. What are our priorities? Is it more important to remove a ban on industries, remove a ban on non-BS 6 diesel vehicles within 3 days? Or should we continue that ban and at least have kids go back to school if the AQI levels fall to below 300, which is what Dr. Nangia is saying is the minimum you need to do in outdoor activity, at least go into school and sit in your class and give these kids a chance to study. Because remember, school closures because of pollution levels, as you said, are an annual occurrence now in Delhi and the NCR. And this disruption of schools or primary classes comes after schools in Delhi finally fully opened physically, after 2 years of a closure because of COVID. Sudha Acharya, what about the digital divide? What about the gaps, learning gaps that have been created already by 2 years of a pandemic? Is all of that being taken into account? And what about those kids who don't have, laptops, etc., devices to access classes from home?
Yeah, as we are focusing on foundational year learning, and during the pandemic, we have observed that there is a huge learning loss and gap, and when the children are coming back slowly to their own schedule, so we are trying to bridging that gap. But I'm really amused. This has become routine affair for last 6-7 years. Why don't we start or initiate these dialogues or conversation right from September to send reminder to our policymakers? Because school closure has become a knee-jerk reaction and quick fix solution. This is neither a permanent solution nor a holistic solution to pollution in any civilized world. So either we provide substitute to our farmers who are burning stubbles, either we provide them equipments or give them on rent or subsidize. So this is not the only year, or it is not the first year we are facing this problem. It is happening right from 2015. As per the performance grading index, it reflects that there is huge gap in learning, in life skills, in 21st century skills, as we are saying. And we have trained our children for climate action. We talked about COP26. Now we are preparing them for COP27. But what kind of legacy we are leaving behind? So there is no collaboration, as you said right in the beginning, between the policymakers. So 3 days before, it is said that schools will be closed, primary classes. Now, of course, I understand there is a huge impact on economy. That's why graph 4 has been revoked. But similarly, education has to be the priority.
Yes.
And we cannot trade off between health and education. That is my view.
Yes.
So, and then, if talking about underprivileged caste, I have also 25% EWS. I have many special need children who are now deprived of their individual therapy and even midday meals. And have we provided them air purifier in their home? Can home substitute school environment? If we talk about digital divide, we have seen it during pandemic that there is huge digital divide.
Yes.
So we may, as private school, we can shift to virtual mode. But what about government school? What about budget schools? So again, children will be out of school, out of formal schooling, and the gap we are trying to bridge will again be enlarged.
One step forward, 2 steps back. Akshay Marathis, with the Aam Aadmi Party, you have our panelist Sudha Acharya here saying that this is a knee-jerk reaction. It is not sustainable. It is not practical. It's the easy option for our political parties, in this case, the state government, to just shut down schools. So it's a placebo effect. We parents can then feel like maybe our kids are safe, but it's not really helping us.
Sarah, first of all, I want to acknowledge that there is undoubtedly a huge cost in our society because of pollution, and to the extent that the Aam Aadmi Party is responsible, let me address the elephant in the room. As a party that is now ruling in Delhi and in Punjab, we want to take complete responsibility for what is happening, especially when it comes to the stubble burning. And I want to reiterate what Mr. Kejriwal said a couple of days ago when he was doing a joint press conference with Bhagwant Mann, the Chief Minister of Punjab, that we have just come to power in Punjab and we are very hopeful that within the next year, we will find a very long-term and sustainable solution to farm burning that has been happening in Punjab. Of course, we cannot claim to say that we will fix the entire North India problem, because it is obviously not just a Punjab and Delhi problem. But when it comes to our responsibility, we want to take ownership of that. Coming to the question today about specifically education and learning losses, there is no doubt that in the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, our children have suffered immensely. And as a party that is very committed to providing high quality education to the people of Delhi, we are very sensitive to the fact that continuing the closure of schools for a longer period of time will actually do more damage in the longer term. However, I want to assure you, Sarah, that this is not a knee-jerk reaction that has not been well thought through. The thing is that for children below the age of a certain level, the damage that happens to their lungs when they step out of the house and play in the playgrounds, walk to school, go in the school bus to school, all of these combined activities that are responsible for taking a child from home to school actually do result in a lot of healthcare issues for the child in a longer term time frame. So in order to avoid that, it is necessary that at least for a few days, when the AQI had gone off the charts, it was necessary to give that breather to these children who will suffer long-term damage. But I agree, this is not a permanent solution. It is not sustainable also. And we are not at all in favor of having these school shutdowns for a longer period of time. As soon as things start to improve a little bit, I am confident that the state government of Delhi will get children back in the school.
Sudha Acharya, Eden also mentioned this, that kids have, the school bus comes by 6:15, 7 o'clock, which is the most dangerous time, as doctors are saying it's not the time to go out. Is there another way out? Can we have, I don't know, like a change in school timings for the winter, given the fact that it's been over a decade that we've been doing this?
Of course, we can have change in timing. Like in winter, generally we start the school a little bit late. So we can have, 9 to 3 o'clock. Even the school calendar, if I tell you, Sarah, it is completely disrupted. November is the month. Delhi has such climate that it is extremely hot, and after the rainy season, right from September to February, we lined off all our annual days, sports day, march past, drill, assembly, everything happens during these days because weather becomes favorable. Now children are deprived of all those things. So I'm thinking that to reorganize, rescheduling our holidays and activity calendar, even as you said, timing can be changed 9 to 3.
All right, but basically we have to find other solutions to this. We have to think differently. We have to come up with newer, unique responses. Dr. Archana Dhawan Bajaj, you are a doctor and you're a BJP supporter. The centre taking this decision, as a doctor, how do you feel about the fact that 3 days ago, because there was such a hue and cry, because the air quality had become absolutely unlivable the government announced these curbs will come into place. And then 3 days later, because you have a temporary blip where the air quality index improves by 100, our standards are so low, our expectations are so low, they've lifted the curbs. What's your reaction as a doctor?
As a doctor, of course, I'm concerned, with the situation. And more than the situation, I'm concerned about the fact that we do not have a pan-country legislation. Now, the minute we have a pan-country legislation which says, if this is the air quality, this is what happens. If this is the air quality, this is what shuts down. And it shuts down or lifts in a systematic, sequenced fashion. A lot of this hue and cry would not happen. Though I am hugely concerned about the gap being raised. I'm hugely concerned about children not going to school, and I'm very worried about what's going to happen to this generation that's in and out of schools, that's not leading a normal life, they're confined to homes, etc., etc. But we all have to understand that the crux of this problem is going to come when we have a pan-country legislation and agreement, and for this the states have to be in sync with the central government to be able to work out a solution.
Doctor, you're a gynecologist and you're also an IVF specialist. So in that context, can you tell us, we talk so much about the impact on little kids, what is the impact on pregnant women even?
Sarah very appropriately asked, most pregnant women have an effectively decreased lung capacity because of the pregnancy state, because of the intra-abdominal pressure being raised. So they are actually starting the whole scenario on a back foot any which ways. And if we were to look at whatever little data is available on how pollution affects women who are pregnant and how it affects children in utero, we find that there have been some studies done in China, and they very categorically say women affected themselves, higher incidences of asthma during pregnancy, more lung diseases, more bronchiolitis, more associated lung pathologies during pregnancy, and the children in utero, placental accidents, low birth weights, preterm labor. Forget about the long-term sequelae that all of this will have. Very clear association between pollution and preterm labor, low birth weight babies, and placental accidents. So I think that says it all. We are actually spoiling a generation from the from the point of conception till the point they're delivered, and forget about what we give them
Yet
when they
3
are
days
fully alive
after, yet we have a situation where we have 3 days after curbs are put into place, because the AQI dips by about 100 points. We've had these curbs removed. Dr. Vivek Nangia, we've heard Akshay Marathe also point out, I just want you to reconfirm, yes, we know that the impact on younger kids, primary school kids, would be higher than it would be for a senior school kid. But how would you as a doctor and as a parent balance this out? Should these kids at least be allowed to go to school? Because just as they're more vulnerable when they're younger, they also need socialization. They also need interaction with friends. They need to get their basics, their foundations when it comes to reading, writing and math in these crucial years. So how would you balance it out?
It's a very catch-22 kind of a situation, because during this COVID time when there were lockdowns and children were confined to the four walls of the homes, they did develop a lot of psychological issues as well. There was, some of them went into depression, some of them went into hyperactivity disorders. So there were various issues that children were suffering with, anxiety and disturbances. So, keeping that in mind on one hand, on the other hand, having in mind the impact of air pollution on the health of the children if they are about to go to school. So I think you have to strike a balance somewhere where at least the least we can do is, if the schools are open, then we don't involve the kids in any outdoor physical activity, especially the strenuous activities.
So let's say go ahead, have shorter hours. Would that be a solution? I'm asking both the parents here. I'm asking Sudha Acharya. Maybe have shorter hours. Start at 9. End by 1 or something in the afternoon. Cut out PT. Cut out all the activities, but at least do the basics. Whatever, English, math, Hindi, social studies, do 3-4 basic classes. At least you don't miss out on that. And what happens, let me ask Akshay Marathe, what about the kids? How are we ensuring that when they're not in school, they're still breathing the same air? At home, there are homes that don't have government schools, and not all homes have these fancy purifiers that cost so much. And which kid is sitting in that one room where the purifier is on?
No, absolutely. I agree with you, Sarah. We recognize that this is a class issue as well, that there are poorer families who live in small homes, who may not be able to actually keep their children home if school is shut. And we recognize that reality. We recognize that there is a severe economic divide in the city of Delhi, and we have to account for that as well. But in this specific situation that we have landed ourselves in, I think it becomes important for us to weigh the trade-offs. We have to understand what is it that's going to cause short-term damage, and is it worth it to cause that damage for the long-term benefit? And like I just want to repeat myself that we in our from what we learned from our doctors, what we learned from our school principals, and what we learned from parents, we also take into account what the parents of Delhi are feeling. And the general feeling across these stakeholders was that in this particular case, for a few days, it is important that we keep our children home and avoid all of these other things that happen.
All right, you're saying it's for a few days, but for us parents it feels it has been years that we've been facing this. Every year we're told it's for a few days. Let me ask Eden and Kariba, there's another look, there are many reverberations and repercussions of all of these policy decisions taken by our politicians. What about women? How does this, who gets affected the most when the school decides that there's not going to be any school, kids are going to stay at home? What does this mean for working women? What does this mean for the jobs that they do, for the hours that they can put in? Either of you, Eden or Kariba, who takes the hit?
Definitely, I think we women take the most massive hit, because to organize the children, to make sure that you take those hours off from your office, you make sure that everything is organized particularly well for them. They need to be in front of their class. and especially when you have a child who's in nursery, it's the first time for them. They've been COVID children, so they don't understand the concept of online, right? So
somebody has to sit with them. Somebody has to help them work the computer, and that somebody obviously is the mother.
Yes, and that has to be us. And maybe for the elder children, it's easier, right? Everything is one click away. They know how to get from one class to another. That's not a problem. But we mothers do get the biggest blow out of this situation, because yes, we have to be sitting with them, at least the primary school children.
And so when you put in these policies in place, are we also factoring what this means for women in the labor force? What does this mean for women and working women and unemployment rates? Go ahead, Eden. You wanted to add something. Last word to you, and then we're going to wind up.
Yes. I wanted to say the same thing, as we are the privileged ones who can at least afford to take a leave and stay at home. But thinking about the people who are working for domestic helps and all, sudden decision of closing schools for primary kids, it's not fair. So it is not possible always for them to stay back at home and take care of the little ones. So that is where the problem comes.
Absolutely. So this is the human face, the human side of these policy decisions taken by our politicians, and we hope we're able to at least take these voices across to those who are sitting in these offices taking these decisions for us. Please keep in mind, if you say that this is a short-term solution, hopefully we're not here again next year, same time, same place, debating the same issue. Thank you all for joining us on We the People. We will continue to keep the focus on this. We will continue to keep the conversation going. Thank you for joining us.